Hi, this is Kori from La Vie en Orange, and today is our first ever web tutorial. I'm so excited about starting this today and hope that you are excited to check it out and do the project along with me. I thought we could start out with just a sewing basic, sewing a straight line, practicing sewing a straight line, but then also make a fun note card using our new skill at the end. So we will need a sewing machine, a piece of lined paper. Also, I've got some fun cardstock here that we're going to recycle and turn into a fun note card at the end. And I'm going to use some fun colored thread to go with this. And I think that will do us. Okay, so this is our sewing machine's presser foot. This is kind of where all the action is. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit maybe. You can see this is the presser foot. This is the throat plate, and under the presser foot are these little things called feed dogs, and when I use my presser foot you can see they're going to move, or when I push the pedal of the machine you can see that the needle starts to go up and down. I'm just going to go slowly. I don't know if you can see, but oh, there it is. The feed dogs move. And so the feed dogs are going to do all the work for us. We don't need to push or pull our fabric or our paper at all. The feed dogs are going to do all that for us. So to begin by sewing a straight line, I'm going to put my paper underneath the needle. I'm going to just pause for a second. So I didn't want to shake everybody around too much. So I put the paper underneath my presser foot, and then I use the lever in the back to lower my presser foot. It's camera magic. So I lowered my presser foot and I lined my needle up with one of my lines on my paper. And now I can just use my pedal and sew and try to stay on line as best as I can. I'm not pushing the paper, I'm just going to try to steer it gently with small movements from left to right and try to follow the line. I can go as fast or as slow as I want to. So you can just kind of see, I'm using one hand, you'll probably use two. Alright, let's see what we've got here. So you can see on the throat plate that there are all these different lines. And they have numbers on them, so that's got a 3 up here, 4, 5 goes all the way down, 6, and these indicate how much of a seam allowance you are giving. So the number 3 is 3/8 of an inch from the needle, and that means that you're making a 3/8 inch seam. 4 is a 1/2 inch away, so 4/8. 5/8 is what most home sewing patterns have, and so when you are sewing you can use these lines to line the edge of your fabric with, and so you know if your fabric edge is right here, you know that you're always sewing 5/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. You're making a 5/8 inch seam allowance. So I can show you how to do that with the paper. My lines didn't line up. Alright, so you can see now I've got the edge of my paper lined up with my line. You can see if I pull away. So there's the edge of my fabric lined up with my 5/8 inch seam allowance, and so now I can practice following that line and using that line to guide me to making a straight seam allowance. And again, I'm just letting all the feed dogs do all the work. Alright, so now if we look at my row, you can see my stitching lines just barely. You can see I've got my seam gauge on 5/8 of an inch, and if I follow it up, I did alright. And that is how I know that my garment is going to be, the seam allowances are going to be consistent, and so I'll have a better bet of having the same fit if I'm doing like a left sleeve and a right sleeve, or pant legs, or anything like that. So that's a great skill to be able to sew a straight line and to keep it consistent throughout. Alright, so one more skill we're going to need for this project is turning a corner. So I am gonna sew down my straight line until I get to that pink line on the paper. I'm gonna try to stop right on the pink line, and I'm gonna try to stop with my needle in the fabric, or in the paper in this instance. And it looks like I'm a little bit off. My stitch length was such that I didn't finish completely on the pink line, but I don't want to go past it. So I'm just going to stop right here with my needle down in the fabric. And to turn a corner, I'm going to leave my needle in the fabric, and I'm going to lift my presser foot and then just turn the paper. And now, if I put the presser foot back down, I can just continue along this trajectory, and I'm going to try to go straight right next to that pink line since I didn't land on it. And then let's get to another line. Let's see if I can land on this one. Okay, now I can turn this corner. I'm going to stop with, again, I stopped with my needle down. I lifted my presser foot. I turned the fabric, put the presser foot back down, and keep going. Congratulations, you have just turned a corner. All right, so we have sewn a straight line and turned a corner, and hopefully you've practiced both of these things until you feel completely comfortable with them and you can notice some improvement. You're doing a great job. Congratulations, you were sewing a straight line. And so now I think it's time to make a fun, cute little note card. So I'm going to take my cardstock that I'm going to recycle. I'm going to cut the portions off of it that I'm not going to use. Let's see, so this is about 8 inches. I'm probably going to cut it like 4 inches wide, so that's 4 by 8, and then I'm going to fold it in half. And so using camera magic, the next time you see me, I will have a piece of cardstock in my hand that will not have other things on it. Woo! Okay, so when all was said and done, 4.5 by 8.5 came up with this cute little kind of squarish size of note card. So I cut it and then folded it in half, and now I'm going to thread my sewing machine. And so if you have never threaded your sewing machine before, or if you need some help, just refer to your manual. They're all a little bit different, but they all have a lot of the same parts, so hopefully you'll be able to figure that out. Okay, so now we are threaded, and you can see that I've got my bobbin threaded as well. Again, refer to your sewing machine manual if you need help figuring out how to thread your machine. I'm going to turn it on, get the light on, and then I'm going to stick my note card underneath. Ooh, I'm going to stick my note card underneath the presser foot. Okay, and I thought turquoise would be a fun color to go with my brown paper. Kind of fallish. So I'm actually going to use my 3/8 of an inch seam allowance right here. I'm going to use this line as a guide, and I have my presser foot down. I'm just about at 3/8 of an inch past the fold in the note card, and so that's where I'm going to choose to start. Alright, so I'm just going to use my hand wheel, and there's my cat. I'm going to use my hand wheel to advance my needle, and I think I'm just going to start with my needle down for this project right now. And I'll use my foot pedal to start sewing. When I get about 3/8 of an inch from the end, I'm going to stop with my needle down and turn a corner like we learned earlier. And you can see the cute little border that's going on, so just keep going. And you can go as fast or as slow as you are comfortable with. And so my needle's down, so I'm going to turn this corner. And keep going. I maybe went a little bit too far, but my needle is out of the paper, so I'm going to use my hand wheel to go backwards, to go back down, and because this is really where I want to turn the corner. So then I'm going to do that. And now this is where I'm going to have to eyeball my straight edge, and I wanted to save this one for last, so that's why we started where we did. I wanted to get some good practice with the other ones, and I'm just trying to keep the fold even with where the edge of my presser foot is. So there's that, and now I'm down. My needle has met with the other row of stitching that's going that way, and I'm gonna go backwards, and on my machine, to push this button in, that's how you go backwards. So I'm gonna go backwards to just lock that stitch. I'll make a knot. I'm just gonna go back once, that'll be good. Come forward, using my hand wheel now, because that's easier when I just wanna go one stitch or so. My needle is out of my paper, so I'm gonna lift my presser foot and just pull it out, and now I can snip that free. I'm gonna clean up my threads. And look, now you've got a super cute little note card to mail to a friend. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I had a blast doing it, and I'm excited for this to be the first one. And so I will look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks so much for stopping by. Bye-bye. Okay, so when all was said and done, 4.5 by 8.5 kind of gave this cute little squarish size. I folded it in half to make a note card, and now I'm going to thread my machine so that we can sew a cute little border around the front, and then we will have a cute little embellished note card.